Thank you. Treasury has sent out economic relief payments to more than 80 million Americans who have their direct deposit information on file with the IRS. The Department of Agriculture will be implementing a $19 billion relief program for our great farmers and ranchers. The program will include direct payments to farmers as well as mass purchases of dairy, meat, and agricultural produce to get that food to the people in need.
There are two general types of tests, even though within each general type there are different subgroups. One of them is to actually test for the infection. Is a person infected? The other test is an antibody test, a test that tells you, in fact, that you've been infected, because that will give you a broader view of two things. One, what the penetrance of the infection had been. And number two, you can make an assumption, though we still need to prove that. I mean, we are assuming that if you're infected and you have antibody, you're protected. And I think that's a reasonable assumption based on our experience with other viruses. No doubt that early on we had a problem. I have publicly said that we had a problem early on. There was a problem that had to be corrected, and it was corrected. It was a problem that was a technical problem from within that was corrected, and it was an issue of embracing the way we have now and should have the private sector, who clearly has the capability of making and providing tests at the level that we will need them for any of the things that I've just spoken about. I know I get on the phone a lot with my colleagues because, believe it or not, some long time ago, I was where they are, in the hospitals, in the emergency room, looking at very sick individuals that you need to take care of. And I know what it means when someone tells you, hey, you have what you need, and you look around and you say, well, maybe you think I have what I need, but I don't really have what I need. So we have to figure out, how do we close that gap? You have a situation where tests are needed and appropriate, and either people have found there's no tests, or there's no reagents, or there's no swabs, or a person needed a test and were told that there was a restriction. They couldn't get a test. These are all the things that I'm telling you, you already know because you've heard them. So right now, or there's a delay of 5 to 7 days. And what does that mean if you want to get somebody out of circulation? We understand that that existed, but upon careful examination, what you are going to hear, that many of those have been already corrected. There is existing capacity that we have that for one reason or other maybe has not been fully communicated as to the availability of that existing capacity. For what we need in the first phase, if these things are done correctly, what I believe they can, we will have and there will be enough tests to allow us to take this country safely through phase one.
In addition, what we talked about yesterday was adding that asymptomatic component, because I think you'll see as more and more articles come out for surveillance and monitoring that other states have done, higher and higher antibody in multiple individuals who don't remember having a sickness. And their FDA has been very cautious about the antibody test, because I know you see reports every day of countries that have ordered the antibody test and found that they were 50, 60, 70% faulty. So we're taking that very seriously, because you never want to tell someone that they have an antibody and potential immunity when they don't. The way we do this in the United States today for strep, for influenza, and for malaria is we test for the antigen. Now, we don't know right now if you shed antigen in the front of your nose. And so that is the question that scientists and companies are working on right now, because that becomes a simpler test. There will never be the ability on a nucleic acid test to do 300 million tests a day, or to test everybody before they go to work or to school. But there might be with the antigen test. And so that's why there's a role for nucleic acid tests, there's a role for antibody tests, and there's a role for the future development of these other key tests.
I just took one of the largest labs and I said, map out for me where you are within 10 miles of where you are, every site in the country. And when you do that, within 10 miles of a site of one of these, 93% of the U.S. population is covered. These are truly national reference labs that cover almost everybody within the United States. So if you cannot get a test at your hospital, the chances are overwhelming that you could send this to these labs that are fully caught up now. They have no backlog of tests. They've ramped up their production, so their turnaround time is about 48 hours because you may need to transport it from the middle of America out to a lab and result that.
Earlier today, Jay Inslee said that your tweets encouraging liberation. Jay Inslee said your tweets encouraging liberation in Michigan, Minnesota, Virginia were fomenting rebellion.
If you look at some of the states you just mentioned, it's too tough, not only relative to this, but what they've done in Virginia with respect to the Second Amendment is just a horrible thing. They did a horrible thing, the governor. And he's a governor under a cloud to start off with. So when you see what he said about the Second Amendment, when you see what other states have done, no, I think I feel very comfortable.
Sir, are you concerned, though, that people coming out in protest are going to spread COVID to other people? They're congregating in ways that health experts have said they should not.
No, these are people expressing their views. I see where they are, and I see the way they're working. They seem to be very responsible people to me, but it's, they've been treated a little bit rough.